The Escalade is back on the channel because, surprisingly, there are more things to fix on this 21-year-old 260,000 mile vehicle. I can tell you're shocked. Now, if you haven't seen this before, if it looks like it's new, it is not new. I actually made a video on this thing. I bought this wrecked at the auction. It was hit on the right front corner. And we just got to fix this and whatever else is wrong with it. And I only paid $525 for it, which I thought I was going to do well parting it out, but then it got delivered and it wasn't rusty. And everything else I can fix. I actually had everything this thing needed in color, in stock, which made it a no-brainer to fix this high mileage 2004 Escalade. So after talking with my wife about it, we decided to tag team that project, and we rebuilt this thing together. We hung a hood, a fender, a front bumper, the headlights, the grille, a bunch of stuff that was broken in the accident. And while it was apart, I got kind of caught up in those scary 5 words that us rebuilders hate to hear while you are in there. Let's try this yet again. But I didn't get everything, and I have run 2 tanks of gas through this thing, so I know a few things about what it needs, and today we're going to tackle almost all of them. As you can tell, the angle of the dangle of the hood looks peculiar because I put it in service mode. Actually, if you take the bolt out that normally goes to this part of the hood bracket and mount it to this, the hood sits like this. You don't have to take the hood off. So it makes things a lot easier. Now, as far as the stuff this truck needs, well, the rear brakes were really thin, and I noted that when I first got it. The pads were 30 to 40%, and they were worn unevenly, likely from dry guide pins. So we're going to tackle that. It also has a terrible belt squeak. The belts don't look that great, and it still has a few oil leaks. So we're going to try to do all of those things. Now, I am going to replace the valve covers while I'm in there because I have the updated ones off of Gen 4, and we're going to do valve cover gaskets, intake gaskets, an oil pressure sending unit, the cam sensor, and then all the belts and all the idlers and pulleys because I'm a once and done kind of guy. So a little spoiler, I power wash this a lot, like a lot. I try to clean this up so I can tell where it's been leaking from. And I think I have one answer. Now, it could definitely be the oil pan gasket. These do that. But I more think that this is a crank seal leak. That's what it looks like to me. So it looks like we're going to tear this thing down far enough to at least put a crank seal in it. Didn't plan on doing that, but it's not too much more work once the fan is out of the way, which has to come out of the way. Just the lower shroud, it is no big deal, and the seal is only a few bucks. Well, let's start out by taking the engine covers off. Not too dirty under there. That airbox seems a little loose, doesn't it? Did I do a bad job fixing this thing? All right, intake tube is out. Now it looks like what most of them look like at the auction, missing their covers. That one's much easier. Next, we'll work on this upper fan shroud. Shouldn't be too terrible. I know this probably ain't gonna work, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Sometimes the shock works. Other times, it works. I will say, because this vehicle is not rusty, it's probably one of the reasons this came off that easy. They don't always do that. Now we can get this lower fan shroud out, I think. Nothing's attached to it. It's supposed to be attached to it, but nobody reinstalled anything, whoever had this apart last.
It wasn't me.
Oh my goodness, look at the room for activities in here. Oh, there's a bunch of junk. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and peel off some of the belts, I think. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get the belts off of it. We don't need that anymore. So you know that whole while you're in there thing I talked about earlier? Here, that's a better look right here. Let me put the stationary on something so that you can kind of see how much play there is. That's bad. It's got a bad water pump. So yeah, it looks like we're going to be draining the coolant out of this. This is quickly unraveling, you know? So one of the reasons I say I like to do everything at once, that doesn't sound great. That sounds worse. None of them are great. So I bought a new one of these, a new one of those, and a new one of those. And now I need a new one of these. So yeah, we're gonna dig a little deeper than I wanted to, but we gotta fix it. Start by getting some coolant out of this thing. So now I'm going to take the cap off. Let's see if it drains any differently. Oh yes. And it's making huge messes. While that's draining, we'll keep working here. Let's get those heater hoses out of the way. I don't know if this will fit in there. Oh, come on. Be happy. Yep, that one's gonna get cut off. So the real question is, do we think this is the original water pump? It looks it. They're rusty. I'm gonna have to get some better bolts.
I don't know where I'm gonna get those.
Cut that heater hose. It wouldn't be a video from on this channel without cutting a hose, huh? That's in good shape. Of course, blue can work on things too. There's the water pump. What do you think? These original? And I haven't seen gaskets like this that I can remember. Almost all of them look like the metal ones. I mean, these could be original. You think they're still good? I'm joking. I'm gonna replace those gaskets. Now I'm gonna take a minute and jack the back of this thing up a little bit, try to push more coolant out so that way when I drop it back down, it won't leak any coolant into the crankcase. Yeah, there's more leaking out now. It's kind of working. So the next thing I'm gonna do is get a couple cans of brake clean and just try to hose this thing down, get all the loose stuff off. That way when I go to pull this crank pulley in the front cover, nothing ends up in the oil pan. That's the goal. I don't want anything bad that's not supposed to be there in the oil pan. A couple of cans of brake clean go pretty far. So it's clean, and now I'm gonna get this tensioner off. We're replacing this anyway. It'll allow for easier access to that bolt. I'm not taking the compressor down. I'm not taking this bracket off. But I don't know why GM didn't put a little notch in here so that you can get a bolt past it. I don't know why. You think we can get my impact, get my weighted socket in here? Oh yeah, no problem. Let's go ahead and get this pulley off. And like that, we're stuck. We're not stuck. Now what you're thinking, well, you could just take the seal out where it sits and not pull the front cover, but I'm literally, what, 10 bolts away from doing the oil pickup O-ring, and with the oil pressure issues this thing is displaying, obviously the only signs I have that it has low oil pressure is the gauge, which we all know how reliable those are. But I'm already here. I'm in here. All right, so this is the bolt that's the most challenging because of the AC bracket, which I'm not going to remove. So we're going to use a little swivel and hope that we don't get ourselves stuck. Okay. Oh, now I've done it. And then we can just do it this way. Let's go ahead and get the harness off the oil pan. There's a bolt over here, I think. There was a bolt. Somebody's been here. Well, that makes my job easier, but I don't like it. I just gotta get the harness off the pan right there. I'm gonna have 2 bolts on the pan. I'll probably do those from the bottom. I decided to do the oil pan bolts from the top. And now, should be able to pop that front cover off. Look at that. Easy peasy. Uh-oh. Someone's been in here. I mean, we knew that, but it has a, it looks like it has a different oil pump in it. For some reason, that does not look like a factory oil pump to me.
Suspicious!
So I've only pulled a few of these apart in my life. That's not the worst. It's not the best for slack there. I don't really work on a ton of Gen 3 stuff, mainly Gen 4, but that does not look like a factory oil pump to me. Development. This is the cheapest oil pump that you can buy on Rock Auto. And I'm not going to say anything bad about buying stuff on Rock Auto. I do it a lot. But I would never buy the cheapest of anything on Rock Auto if your engine's life depended on it. And the oil pump is the heart of the engine. So this has to leave. This 1000% has to leave, which is not a big deal because I'm already this far. I just got to get that pesky 10 millimeter that's hiding way down there, and then I can get the oil pump off. We're actually going to take the front of the pump apart to give us a little more room, I think. Oh, these are pretty loose. They don't usually come out that easy. Oh no. There's a bunch of wear on the sides of the housing. The actual gears look pretty good. Set these over next to this thing, and we're gonna unbolt the oil pump, try to get a little bit of play there so we can get the pickup bolt out of it. These are too tight. Yeah. Now, most people drop the pan for this. I am not most people.
I am not most people.
Alright, we're going to go from this to probably a ratchet wrench. And thankfully it's a flange-headed bolt, so I won't drop it into the pan. Well, the ratchet wrench is not good at ratcheting in this moment. I need a better ratchet wrench than this. Something bad has, really bad has occurred. My wrench has failed me. What? What the what? All right, at this point, I'm just gonna try to get the oil pump out, and then I'll try to fish out anything that fell in the pan. I am not a happy camper at the moment. All right, no. Okay. And we dropped it. It's fine, we'll get it. Oil pump is off. Let's get the O-ring out of the way so we can look at that. Oh, that's hard as a rock. All right, now let's fish some metal objects out of here. There's the bolt. The part of the wrench. That's a whole other story. Let's go fishing. If I can pull this part of the wrench out, I'll be really happy. I got something. That's part of the wrench. Vinx gear wrench. Now I know this is an older wrench, but of all the times that it could have broken, I think getting the pickup tube bolt out was the least favorable. So I did fish one small chunk of it out. I guess that's part of the ratchet, but the large piece is still in there. Of course, I was able to get the bolt out, but the overwhelming story here is this. This is the pickup O-ring, and look, that's bad. And that's probably from someone installing this oil pump poorly with an old O-ring. Thanks, cheap jerks. So now I'm gonna bend up this poor thing, and I'm gonna see if I can fish that part of the ratchet wrench out of the pan. I'm so happy about this. Please. It's probably not on this side. Oh, I got something. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Well, that wasn't too bad. I hope that was it. So this doesn't look bad. This is pretty normal, this amount of slack, but I'm in here. While I'm in here, I'm gonna replace the cam gear and the timing chain. I'm not gonna worry about the sprocket on the crank, but we're gonna do the chain and the cam gear. I'm using, excuse me. I'm using OEM genuine parts. So less than $100 for the pair. I think that's pretty good insurance considering how far I already am. So I've got my timing marks lined up. At this point, I'm just gonna zip out the 3-bolt to hold the cam gear on, slide the new chain and the gear on. Out with the old. So the cam gears are not the exact same. This is the new design. This is the old design. This one, the part number ends in 5593. You can't buy a new one anymore. The new one is this part number, 6407. Completely interchangeable. These used to be really cheap, like 25 bucks, but now they're like almost $40 for this. And in with the new. Now, I'm not sure if you're supposed to replace these bolts, so I'm not gonna do it. All right, let's go get the torque wrench. The desired torque spec is 25 foot-pounds. All right, we're gonna check them. I know that sometimes over torques them. I'm not worried about it. And done. Chain and sprocket are on. Now it is time to install the new O-ring here. Get the new O-ring on, and then we got to finagle that oil pump on there. Update. I did notice once I put this O-ring on that the oil pan gasket has failed. I'm not even going to try to get that bolt back in there. I'm just going to drop the pan. So I got the diff out. Sorry I didn't film it. Sorry. It's just pulling the front diff. It's no big deal. Someone's been here. We knew that. The real question is, where did this go and what is in its home currently? I'm hoping we don't find many more surprises here.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get the oil cooler line unbolted from the pan. Let that leak a little bit. Now we just gotta zip the bolts out. Let's get some bolts zipped out. That wasn't very tight. Also not tight. None of these were tight. Alright, got all the easy ones done. Always start with the easy ones. No, I'm just kidding. It's just the way I do it. I'm expecting this pan to just fall on me when I get the last bolts out. Oh, those were tight. Alright, we just have a few bolts, or a couple bolts left. We're gonna go by feel over here. Oh, it moved. Alright, now I gotta get the 15s that I should have gotten done first. How's the pop of happiness? And then now we just have a couple bolts. Oh, they're leaking on my... No! No! Alright, so I just got a bunch of oil on my creeper. It's fine. And we're about to come down here. And the pan is down. Let's take a look what we've got going on under here. The first thing I noticed is it has a blue torque converter, which means, you know, 4L60 things. Someone painted it blue. I don't know why. No, I'm just kidding. He's probably got had a transmission done at some point. 260K would be very difficult for it to be on the original being what it is. Looks like there's a couple things in the pickup will get cleaned out, and I would say a more than average amount of sludge, but it's not terrible. It's just varnish. Little build up here. It's really not too terrible, and I don't hate what I see. The inside of the pan, it's really not too bad. There's a bit of sludge down there. A lot of that's oil. Not loving it, but don't hate it. I don't see chunks of anything. I don't see any sparkles either. That's the important thing, no sparkles. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the pan up to work and make it look brand new. Well, as clean as my parts washer can make it. We're gonna clean that up. We'll change the fluid in that while we have it out. I know my garage is a mess. Relax. And then I got a new oil pan gasket for it. But before we put the pan back on, we got the oil pump and front cover on. And this thing will be really nice when it's done, I hope. All right, the oil pan, I cleaned it. I didn't get too crazy with it. It's free of sludge. I got to put the baffle back in it. Here is the front differential. I cleaned that up a little bit, and of course there's that cross member probably had 3 pounds of gunk in it, so I made the truck faster by cleaning things. I'm just kidding. This is a used oil pump because I'm doing the right thing. I took it apart to make it easier to install. This is actually a Gen 4 melling pump. It is the M365. The Gen 4 pumps are a little bit better in my opinion, and especially for a higher mileage engine like this. And it's out of one of my core engines. I think it was out of one that was overheated, so I don't think there's gonna be any issues there. Now it's time to reassemble. We're gonna put the oil pump on first. Just like so. So we got the new O-ring on the tube. We're gonna put some oil on the O-ring. We're gonna get the pickup tube, which has been sprayed off, and run through the parts washer. It's not as clean as it could be, but nothing's loose. That's the important thing. The pan is prepped. I got my new factory oil pan gasket. This one's been off before. It's got some whiz wheel marks on it. I think it's gonna be all right. I know it looks
kind of factory, but I can tell someone's been in here. I got this prepped. I've got the new front cover. That's all ready. The new front cover gasket's ready to go. Front crank seals replaced. And I also have a new one of these gaskets. It's all new. So we're going to go ahead and try to get this back up there. There's a little bit of RTV application necessary right here and here and here and here. Basically where the three pieces meet, the front cover and the block and the pan, and the back cover, the block and the pan. So this is what it looks like under here. Got the mating surface clean. Just gotta get that pan into place. This is the funnest part. Gotta get it around everything. Hey, that looks like we're in the neighborhood now. We're gonna get this, and then we put the front cover on. If you put the front cover on first, you can create an oil leak because if there's adjustment for the front cover. I mean, it's not really adjustment, but this is supposed to be on first because this surface has to be flat. So the front cover needs to adhere to the surface of the oil pan. All right, before we get those torqued down, we're gonna get the front cover in place.
Well, I wanted to show this. I just forgot to record it. I did shim this. I put a couple shims, one at the top and one at the bottom here. And I made it to where you could fit both feeler gauges in, bolt it down, and then you know you got it right because you can move this larger gear around and pull it in and out so it doesn't make contact with the housing. Oil pump bolts are torqued down. These are 18 foot-pounds and these are 108 inch-pounds. And we're ready to go back on with the front cover.
It is time to torque this down. I like to go from the center out. These are 18 pound-feet of torque, foot-pounds. Before we do the very rearmost ones, we gotta do the front ones. I got a little hairy for a second. It wasn't tightening, didn't feel good. Okay, before we do the rest of the front cover, we need to do these. The long bolts back here are 106 inch-pounds. And these are just a smaller bolt, smaller diameter bolt, and they're longer, so. Okay, time to torque the front timing cover to spec. One of these is a little tricky just because I still have the AC bracket on. It's gonna be just fine. Now, I might be losing some accuracy with this socket setup. It's fine, guys. Torqued to spec. Time to get the oil cooler line gasket and the oil filter on. Now this does have a torque spec. I believe it's 106 inch-pounds, which is what I've got my torque wrench set to. And now we can go on with the oil filter. I got a cheap PF46E. It's what I put on engines when I sell them and they have damaged filters, just to protect it. I'm only going to run this for a short time, probably 1 tank of gas, and then I'll change the oil, put better oil and a better filter on it. But this is just to collect anything that might have made it into the engine when everything was apart. That's all this is for. Time to get the crank pulley on. Just get a little bit of oil on the seal here. Get that set there. Let's get the tool in place. Okay, we're bottomed out. Go ahead and remove the tool. All right, guys, I want to show you a trick that usually works. It doesn't work on everything, but it's something that I learned working on Subarus a long time ago. This is the original, the old belt, which I'm not going to reuse, and I basically have it wrapped around the water pump and the crank pulley and this tensioner. The more you turn the engine over the correct way, the tighter the belt is, and it will eventually hold the crankshaft still to where we can get this tightened to 240 pound-feet of torque, which is the torque spec for the crank bolt. Oh, and this is actually the old bad water pump. I don't know that I would do this with a good water pump. I don't know that it would hurt it, but I put the bad one on, which will be coming off once that bolt is tight. Okay, we're tight. And then to release it, bang. All right, so we're gonna do the new water pump. We got a new tensioner, thermostat, gaskets, all that stuff. We're gonna have a new AC tensioner, belt, and even the pulley that goes on the alternator bracket. One other thing I did is find some slightly nicer water pump bolts off of a core engine. Let's go ahead and get this unit on. All right, we're gonna run them down, and then we gotta torque it down. And now 22 foot-pounds. Okay, we are back together. The diff is in, axles are in, all the stuff is on. Obviously, I don't have the belt on it because I'm going to start it without coolant. I know, it's fine, just for a second. But before I do that, I want to crank it for a while before it actually fires. So I'm going to disconnect all the fuel injectors and the banks of coils. So the reason I'm going to do that is that it won't fire. I can crank and crank and crank and hopefully build some oil pressure, plug everything in, and see if it fires. Now, before I wrap this whole thing up, I'm actually going to tear the top half of this engine apart. We're going to take the intake off. We're going to take the coils, the banks of coils off, and take the valve covers off. I've got new valve cover gaskets with Gen 4 valve covers with the updated PCV design. We're going to replace the oil pressure sending unit because it's a common place for them to leak. We're going to replace the cam sensor, the O-ring on the cam sensor, because it's a common place for that to leak. And before we fill it up with coolant, we're going to replace both of the heater hoses and the quick disconnects that fail every 2 seconds. I don't want to give this thing any chances at leaving me on the side of the road. Alrighty, LQ9, drink up. All right, we're disconnected. Coil banks. I pulled the fuel pump fuse, and I noticed that that's a little cooked. So I'll go have to get some lower mileage units from work. Hopefully this thing still has enough battery. I don't know. It's not looking promising. I got a battery charger here, so let's see what happens here.
All right, so we generated some oil pressure. Off. Climate control. Battery's getting weak. All right, I'm gonna go plug everything back in and see if it fires. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, look at that beautiful oil pressure. Look at that beautiful oil pressure. It's so angry because everything's disconnected, but look at that.
Well, I'd like to apologize for the audio quality in parts of this video because some of it was shot with my phone, some of it with my significantly better camera and mic. So I'm now going to vacuum up all of the DAYBRIS that has fallen in here on the sides of the intake. That way nothing or less falls down the intake ports and the engine has less to chew on once I start it back up. I'm just kidding, I'll clean it all out. But we're gonna vacuum it and then we're gonna start disconnecting everything. All right, start disconnecting some stuff. One bank of coils. Well, this hose is quite hard. I don't know why this hose has to be so difficult. It's just how hoses are, I guess. It's fine. Don't mind me. I'm just coming to join you. Map sensor. What else we got? Alternator. We are cooking here. We have coils and injectors. I don't know that any of this has been apart before. Oh yes, the little harness keeper thingies. There's the other bank of coils. Ooh, that valve cover is dirty. Okay, coils are done. That's loosey-goosey. Now we got the fuel line. We got this crankcase vent hose. Goes to the back of this valve cover. It's probably going to break if I were to guess. I don't really want to pull it off of the intake. Rather pull it off of the valve cover. Oh, it came off. Still might be broken. There's no guarantees there. And then we just have to lift this around that. Let's get this fuel line disconnected. Actually, I might do that after I get it unbolted. I think that's what I'm going to do. Get this thing. All right, let's get everything unbolted. Start with the easiest bolts first, of course. Okay, we are unbolted. Probably not in the right order. It doesn't matter. One thing that I noticed about this Escalade that's weird is I thought that 04 was the last year for the return style fuel rail. I thought that was 99 04 and 05 up was returnless. But this is returnless. This is an 04. 100% 04 because it had a mechanical fan.
Fuel line is off. Easy peasy. Leaking a little bit of fuel. I think we're ready to lift this thing up. Sure feels unbolted to me. Did I miss anything on the back? Oh, you know what I did miss? Oh, there's no vacuum. It's right. It's Hydro Boost. Excellent. Even less work. It's kind of a joke because I had to replace the Hydro Boost on this thing. Or fix it anyway. Leave that line is fun. I don't really want to damage this. Okay. The intake is off. Boy, is it dirty. So this is what 260,000 miles looks like when no one's ever had it off. Now, there's a lot of places for this to leak as far as oil leaks are concerned. And I'm just going to do them all. I'm just going to do everything. This is one of those, again, those terrible words. While you're in there, we're going to do valve cover gaskets because clearly those have never leaked. And then we're going to do the oil pressure sending unit, which is right there. Cam sensor seal, we might just put a whole cam sensor in it. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to fix all the oil leaks by doing this. There's still, it could be the rear main seal, it could be rear main seal plate. There's a bunch of other stuff. It could be the valley pan. I'm not going that far, okay? Got to draw the line somewhere. But for the most part, this all looks pretty good. Peeking down the intake ports like a teardown, it all looks good. I don't see any issues or some debris I'm going to have to vacuum up. We're going to clean this up really good. I think I'm going to work on cleaning this up before I pull the valve covers off, and then that way there's less debris to fall into the crankcase or into the cylinder head. And then the intake, while it's off, we're going to power wash this. This is why I can't be a flat rate tech ever. Not that I'm good enough to be a tech to work on cars for a living. I just take them apart. But I don't like putting dirty things back together, and you can't make any money doing flat rate that way. But yeah, we're going to get these cleaned, get that cleaned. It's going to be fun. We got the coils and the intake. We're going to go ahead and just power wash them off. I'm not going to use any solvents or cleaners, nothing harsh. It's going to hurt any of the rubber or plastics. Just going to knock the loose stuff off so that way we're not installing dirty parts. Time to vacuum up all this junk. There's a lot of it here. While I'm here with the vacuum, go ahead and get all this junk that was under the radiator out. It's pretty easy to do. All right, next I'm going to give it a little bit of brake clean, just kind of soften all this stuff up. I'm not trying to douse it in brake clean because I don't want to dry out any of the things that aren't supposed to be dried out. We're just trying to make it easier to clean. That's it. All right, so we're getting there. I'm not going to call this clean. It's passable where I could wipe this down and put the intake back on, but I'm going to get it a little cleaner, get all the debris out of the little bolt hole areas, and then we'll go ahead and peel the valve covers off. Probably do the valve covers and gaskets first, and then we'll tackle the stuff at the back of the valley. Start with the driver's side. This is somehow dirtier than the other side. All right, now I'll be honest with you, we might be the first people to see underneath this thing since it was assembled. So, who knows? Well, it's a little varnished. Could be worse for 260K. And now the passenger side. Side looks a little bit better. It's really not bad. All right, let's take a look at what this looks like here. And it's got varnish. This side is much worse, but it's still, okay, it's not terrible.
It's not enough for me to think that there's something wrong here. But what I'd be really curious to see is what this is going to look like after 30 or 40,000 miles of consistent oil changes with good oil, which is what I plan to do, to see if this cleans this up at all. All right, let's get the mating surfaces clean. Go all the way around, get this done on both sides. Let's talk about LS valve covers. Now, I'm not sure if this topic has been beaten with a dead horse, but not all LS Gen 3 or Gen 4 have the same valve cover. Of course, the front wheel drive stuff is its own. They have different standoffs for the coils. I think they're a little taller. They don't really fit the trucks. So if you have a truck, a rear wheel drive based engine, whether it's in a car or a truck, SUV, there are different designs for the valve covers. Now, usually they're interchangeable depending on what kind of crankcase ventilation system you have, but the updated ones have a different baffle. Now, if you're curious to know if you have the updated design, now these are updated. It turned out the truck also had the updated one on it, the Escalade did. But I'll leave all the part numbers for the early ones, the non-updated, and then the updated ones in the video description. So if you need an updated set, I sell cleaned Gen 4, which is what I guess you would call them, the updated design, clean pairs of these for $25. That's it. I have so many of these because I go through so many cores that if you need a set, just shoot me an email. I'll leave that in the video description. Now, another very, I wouldn't say common mistake, but a mistake that a lot of people make is that they replace the valve cover gaskets and they don't replace the grommets. In my experience, these will leak first. These can push up, they can split like this one has, and then they will push oil out of them. And I think this one here, which is on the rear of the driver's side, this was definitely leaking out of this area. So, definitely if you're going to buy valve cover gaskets like I did, which I've already installed them here, put the new grommets on. Let's stab these things on here. Now to get these down, just run them down as hard as you can. I'm kidding, these are torque specs. Okay, time to torque them down. So to properly torque them down, you do them in a sequence. The first step is 30 inch-pounds, then 60, and then technically 89, but I always go 90, just because one more is always better. So let's go ahead and get them torqued to 30. This wrench does not make the clicky noise on light torque specs. Okay, first step on the passenger is done. Okay, and then 60. And the final step, 90. Well, 89 technically. And we're on. All right, so let's take a look back here. These are the two of the places that this can leak oil. The sending unit actually looks pretty dry. If the connector is wet, we'll replace it, but otherwise, no, that's dry. Okay, so we're not touching that because I know it works. I touched it, now it doesn't go back. Oh, it goes back in, it's fine. This is another place that it leaks. The O-ring here. I don't see it overly wet. It's just dirty. So I'm going to roll the dice and not touch this stuff. I think I'm just going to leave it and see if it continues to leak. Valve cover gaskets were definitely not great. This might be a mistake. But one thing I also noticed, look at that bolt. Here, let me bring you in. They're all loose. I think the majority of the leaks in this area I'll show you something else that's interesting as soon as I get down into safety. Okay. These are all loose. So I don't know if someone's been here before or not, but I'm going to retorque the valley pan down, and hopefully that squashes most of the leaks on this engine. Let's see how many of these are loose. All right, that one was tight. That one was loose. 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 Tight. 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 This one I know is loose. Very loose. Is the loosest one of them all, I think. Okay. Come on, harness. Work with me, not against me. Okay, so that one's tight. So it's like half of them were loose. That's going to be a problem. All right, let's blow some air and get all this.
All right, we're ready to go on with the intake. Well, the intake is clean and dry. I really just hit it with the power washer. I didn't go too crazy with it, but it is time to install the new gaskets on this intake. Out with the old crusty, which actually, these don't look half bad, but they're not new, and these are. All right, just gotta set this thing on there, right? Yeah, this is not comfortable. It's fine. Can't forget the evap line. I should just disconnect it over here. That's what I should do. Instead of kinking it, it doesn't want to let go, so do things the hard way. You know what? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Nope. That's out of the way. Oh, don't want to get the towel stuck in there. Okay, we're kind of in the vicinity. Make sure we got nothing tied up on anything. And it's time to bolt it down. Now, this might be completely against what most people do. This might be atypical, is what I'm saying. I'm going to torque this down the correct way in sequence, because there is a sequence and a torque spec, just like other parts on this engine. That one here doesn't want to go in. Oh, we got a couple more to run down. Okay, it is not installed, it is installed. Time to torque it down. It's 3 steps. We're going to do 30, 60, 90. Get out of the way, heaters. Hoses. All right, and now 90. I really mean 89. Of course I mean 89. All right, it's bolted down. I feel like I'm missing, you know what? This kind of reminds me that I need to clean the throttle plate. Yeah, that's what that reminds me of. So why do something twice, you know? I think it's time to connect some stuff. There, now we're done. Come on now. There we go. Can't forget to plug that map sensor in. It's not perfect. It's fine. Things are going smoothly. All the injectors are in nice and tight. It's time to install some coils. Plug wires. Okay, that bank's done. And the other coils. Over here, we're going to get rid of these heater hoses. We don't need them anymore. Oh, it goes that way. So the next thing I'd like to do is replace these. These are the heater hose connectors that go on the firewall on the actual heater core itself. And these are always broken, always. If there's a coolant leak and it's a GMT 800 or even a 900, all the way up to 2014, these guys are the first place I look. Now, there's a black one and a white one. They're not the same. The angle of the dangle here is slightly different. I don't know if you can see that. The black one has more of an angle on it. So one of the things I noticed is that whoever worked on this truck put two of these guys on. It's not right. Now, the reason I'm doing this preventatively is these never break at an opportune time. I've also got new heater hoses to go on. Just figured while it had no coolant in it, might as well get these done. It's being very pesky. Really don't know why my compressor chooses right now to turn on, but here we are. All right, that is off. Those are both off. These are the old ones, which I'll probably just keep them here. No, I'm not. I'm gonna throw them away. They're trash. So these go on a lot easier than they come off. Why did I say anything? Why did I say a single thing? They do go on pretty easy though. And like that, they're done. It is time to install heater hoses. There's one new one. There's the other one. I don't know why they put the clamps oriented this way. That's bad. We can fix it. There, now the clamps face the right way. That's on. All right, that's content. Pretty sure it goes like this. Let's get these little bitty coolant lines, go to the throttle body on. I don't know if I can remember how this goes, but I'll figure it out. Let's go ahead and get the belt on it, which is ironic that this is the part, this is the initial, oop, I'll need that later. This is the initial symptom that I'm trying to fix. It's funny. Will you just be happy? There we go. Let's get this. Oh, this hose is in the way. Now I just need that wrench that I dropped. All right, the belt is on. Now it's time for that fan shroud. I know I could do this with the engine running, but I'm not that guy. All right, looks like I just have some clips and bolts. All right, now I just need to find the clamp for that. Uh-oh, broke something. Oh, that wasn't important. It goes to the intake. This goes in the hole here. Now we can get the clamp on. All right, that's almost tight. That's tight enough. Let's go a little bit more. At this point, I need to go to the shop and get a Gen 4 filler neck. Since I put Gen 4 valve covers on here, this thing does not fit. They're not all the same, which is fine. I got plenty of them, but I'm going to go ahead and get the air intake on it at the moment. Well, I need to put the engine covers on it too, but I'm going to wait until I have the filler for this. So yeah, engine covers, filler neck, fill it with coolant, and this thing is getting close. I don't know what it is, I really like the way these look. Don't mind that. Vortex 6000. Beautiful. Now we just got to put some coolant in it and return the hood to normal position. Well, there's only a couple things left to do. How to fill her up. I don't hear anything leaking yet, so that's good. This is fine. Things are fine with one hand. I think this goes like this. And I think this goes like this. This is gonna be so fun. Look at that. It's almost like we're almost all back together. Perfect. I'm gonna leave the cap off because when I start it, it's probably gonna push some air out and I'll have to refill the coolant. And I think I need to go get the keys so we can back this thing out. Okay, I'm gonna start it up. Seems happy. Excuse me, guys. I said excuse me. Yep, we need to fill this unit up a little bit more. Look how quiet this thing is. Better open a garage door though. All right, look at that oil pressure, guys. That was like higher than wide open throttle when cold. This is a happy GMT 800. I think it's time to pull this thing out a little bit and let it run. Well, it's been running for probably about 25-30 minutes now. It's not pushing coolant or doing anything stupid. It's quiet. I feel like I might have a little exhaust leak with the Y pipe, but not super worried about it. It runs great. It's quiet. But more importantly, look at that beautiful oil pressure. For reference, this is where the oil pressure was before I worked on it when it was at hot idle after coming off the highway. As you can see, it is not very good. It was never that high. Cold at high RPM, well, relative load, it would maybe get to like 25 PSI, 25. So we fixed that. We hopefully fixed all of the oil leaks. We found a bunch of other while you're in there stuff. Belts aren't chirping anymore. So hopefully this thing gives me several years trouble-free ownership. Much like your own health, keeping up with maintenance and repairs on an older vehicle is much easier than it is to make up for lost ground when you don't do those things. And I think that the first and second owner of this definitely took care of it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in the condition it's in presently. The previous owner drove it until they crashed it, and I'm pretty sure that's the only thing they did. Now, there were some questionable things done, like replacing the oil pump with the cheapest possible oil pump and not replacing the O-ring. Whoever did that, I hope your hot water heater goes out in the middle of winter. I truly don't understand why you wouldn't replace the O-ring. There's an original O-ring and a cheapo replacement. Look, I wasn't there, so who am I to cast judgment? I hope your water heater dies. Anyway, all of the stuff I did to this was easy. None of the work on this was very difficult, but it would be really expensive if you took it to a shop and paid $100 plus an hour for labor, which is why a lot of times people don't do everything necessary, and it's a huge risk when you're buying a 20-something-year-old vehicle with 250,000+ miles that is wrecked at the auction. I do not advise going this route unless you know what you're signing up for. I knew that the worst that this could be would be engine, transmission, the whole thing. I knew that the worst case scenario, I had the backup plan of parting this thing out. But at this point, I am really glad that I fixed it. It's a nice vehicle. Now, there's still work to be done. There's still plenty of things. I need to get an alignment, which I've got one scheduled the next week, and I still need to put some Freon in it and charge the air conditioning so the defroster works better this time of year. And everything else is cosmetic. Maybe some tires that are from the last 10 years. These are past their prime. But cosmetic things, I need to get some scratches out of it and do some paint correction and get rid of the rest of the gold emblems, and I hope to get lots of years out of this. I don't want to sell this. I know I had a few emails, people really wanted to buy this thing. There are a ton of these out there, a ton of them. And not all of them are maybe as nice as this is at this point, but they can be with the same amount of work that I put into them. So if you're interested in buying one of these from this era and bringing it back, adopt, don't shop. Buy something from the salvage auction, put it together, because if you buy one that's nice, it may need the same amount. Okay, look, if you don't know what you're signing up for, don't buy a project like this. But there are still plenty of nice examples of these. And I would buy this generation over the next generation, the one after that, 10 times out of 10. These are much easier to deal with. They're much more user-friendly. Maybe they're not as nice on the inside, but I love these things. And this is nice enough for me. So there will be more videos on this, but most of them will likely be on my wife's channel. I think I'm going to convert it to electric fan. I'm going to do some tuning. I'm not going to try to tune for power, but for reliability. And yeah, I don't have big plans. Just drive it. That's what it's designed for. So I hope you enjoyed this huge project video. I hope there's not another one this size. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one.